That is one big pile of shit.
What's up, guys? Boy, Benny. Oftentimes images speak louder than words, and this is one of my favorite images, meaningful images, that have ever been created. It shows a slave master with a whip and all of the slaves bowing down, one slave standing up to the man with the whip as he screams and writhes, and as soon as that one man stands up, many others begin to join them. And then, soon, as they all stand up, the slave master is the one with the whip bowing down to the rest of them. What does this mean? Well, there can only be so many elites. That's a point of like elites, right? They're not populists. They're not the largest part of the population. They're often actually the worst people in society. They're often, as we are seeing now with the Epstein releases, they're often the worst people that you can possibly imagine. They're sickos, they're degenerates, and more importantly, they're not driven by like family or love of nation, God, or country. They're driven by love of themselves and the craven pursuit of power for themselves. And so that is why it is so important for us to be populists, because populists, by definition, care about the population of people they live around, their neighbors, their communities, their towns, their states, and then their countries. But it really starts with caring about your own family. It starts with caring about the people next to you. And what kind of a father would I be, or what kind of a parent would I be if I wasn't able to feed my family? I mean, that's one of Maslow's hierarchy needs: shelter and food, water to drink. Without those things, you live a terrible life and a very short life. And that is why the slave masters who wish to keep us all bowing down to them are cracking the whip above the heads of our farmers. Farmers around the world have provided a universe that is unthinkable to our ancestors, where we have too much food. For all of human history, food has been something that you can control. Go back and read your Bible. Controlling food during famine is obviously where all power comes from. And families would have to travel long distances just to beg for grain. Same thing has happened throughout all of history, leading up to recent history, where suddenly the paradigm flipped because of technology and because of the ability for us to cultivate land effectively and properly. We have now an abundance of food. We actually give away our food. We have so much food, America gives it away to starving countries all around the world. In fact, now the problem for poorer people or the underclass is obesity and not starvation. How crazy is that? That's in one generation, we've been able to flip that. Now, I mean, that's still a big problem, right? And obesity is a real killer. You got to be careful about that stuff. But nonetheless, it underlies the issue that if you have a population that doesn't depend on you for their food, doesn't depend on you for their energy, doesn't depend on you for their movement, doesn't depend on you for their everyday life, well, then that means the elites, we depend upon them less. We care about them less, and they have less of a whip to crack over our heads. And so that is why the elites are going country by country, state by state, that they believe that they control, and are sabotaging farmers, are destroying the capacity for us to have easy, clean, accessible, convenient, cheap food and an abundance of it, because that deprives them of a power vector over us. They want us to beg them for food. And what's happening right now in Germany is truly evil. Farmers brought Germany to a standstill with a Dutch-style tractor protest throughout the country on Monday in response to globalist policies of the government of Chancellor Olaf Scholz, a truly maniacal evil man, which they claim threaten their very existence in the agricultural industry. Farmers groups launched their planned week-long action to protest against the leftist coalition government's plan to increase taxes on diesel fuel and eliminate the car tax exemption for farmers, in addition to making deep cuts in subsidiaries for the farming sector. Germany, obviously the breadbasket of Europe, a massive, as somebody who spent a lot of time in Germany and lived in Germany for a while and worked in Germany inside of an agricultural region of Germany, their ability to grow and their ability to produce far outpaces all of their neighbors. And the tech that they use to grow makes Germany the most effective farmers in all of Europe. The proposed tax increase and funding cuts came as the government attempted to fill a 17 billion euro hole in the budget. Although the government was willing to seek to raise money off the backs of German farmers, it was not willing to make any cuts to aid to Ukraine, which is set to double to 8 billion euros this year. Oh, that's interesting. They have a 17 billion euro deficit, but they have an 8 billion euro aid to Ukraine. So how about you stop giving money to Ukraine and that money laundering? Oh, because that would mean the money laundering for the politicians would stop. Got it? So tax the farmers more. Ahead of the plan, we could protest the farmers, and the government said that it would be willing to walk back some of the farming subsidiary cuts and reorganize the tax increases over the next 3 years. However, German Farmers Association said that such moves would be insufficient to stave off the economic disaster facing many farmers throughout the country. And obviously, farming is like a tough job no matter where you are. Farming in America is almost entirely subsidy-based. You could argue whether that's good or bad, but it is. Our government had made a decision that we were going to keep America farming by making sure that we always have food supply here in this country so that we can never be taken advantage of. Isn't that amazing how that works? So we can never have to be dependent on other countries for our food. That's like a really really smart idea. So the government subsidizes farming in America. And I think that's like, God, I hope this doesn't get clipped, but like, as somebody who comes from Iowa, that's like a really good thing to a degree, because you don't want to be dependent on other nations for your food. We don't want America to starve. Duh, you can't take away people's food. Then you take away one of the pillars that allows for life. But that's exactly what globalists are doing to populations all around the world. Nationwide protests on Monday seen tractors shut down entrances to motorways, bridges, tunnels in various states across Germany. According to the broadcaster, NTV, the farmers have closed access points to entire cities in the states of Brandenburg, including urban areas of Brandenburg an der Havel and Cottbus. In Germany, police reported that at least 500 tractors, as well as cars, trucks, vans, descended upon the city center, blocking the street on June the 17th between Victory Column and Brandenburg Gate. This is Brandenburg Gate, obviously one of the places of great prominence and a place of obviously great meaning to the German people. Production was also halted at the Volkswagen factory in Endem on Monday, with tractors blocking off all access to the roads and plants and people getting to work. Good. President of the German Farmers Association said that the government was depriving agriculture of its future viability, and said that the combination of rising energy costs resulting with years of green agenda combined with a war in Ukraine and proposed subsidy cuts and tax hikes would effectively close a third of the income for the average German farmer. They'd lose a third of their income. How would you be able to survive losing a third of your income? Most farmers pretty much get by on virtually nothing anyway. So if you take away a third of their income, then you're toast. You have no more farmers. Farmer Association chief went on to dispute the government's claims that it was short of money, arguing that the bloated government in Berlin has a spending problem rather than an income problem, arguing that the government should seek to make cuts in other areas. Obviously, I bet if you went to Germany right now, you'd be able to find a myriad of diversity, equity, and inclusion trash, right? Relocation, Turkish migrant trash, right? Absolutely. Spending billions on migrant issues and not on their actual citizens. And then went on to say that the planned tax increases were the last straw for the farmers whose businesses are dying in installments. Well, good. It looks like this is working, thank God. Because now the politicians are beginning to walk back. I mean, once you see protests like this shutting down your cities, again, this is the same thing. This image plus this is the same thing. This is what it looks like all across Germany. You can see here, the tractors have just completely shuttered. Like, good luck moving good luck towing these tractors away. You just shut down the place. This is what it looks like when people actually stand up. There are so much more of us than there are of them. German farmers have successfully blocked dozens of highways. German truckers, this is my view on a tractor on the A2, Europe's busiest highway. I'm blown away. This is history in the making. Geert Wilders is the prime minister of the Netherlands, who is effectively won because they were shafting farmers so badly in the Netherlands with the same globalist bullshit. It's the same agenda. Who benefits? Ladies and gentlemen, the people who benefit is the government, who wishes to actually take over for the farmers, because all the private farmers go out of business. The government steps in. They create massive corporations.
Make of the
Hold on, we'll let them talk in just a second. They create massive corporate farming that they control, and then they control all of our food, right? This is why the man won.
Of the nitrogen emission reducing policies, what do you think the real story is?
Well, I think it's leftish rubbish. The real aim here is to get rid of our farmers for some leftish nitrogen kind of agenda, and to make room for even more non-Western immigrants, asylum seekers, and build houses and centers for them, and something that is totally different than the current elite is telling the people.
Yep, ladies and gentlemen, God bless Rebel News for reporting like that. Gosh, I love Rebel News. German farmers have arrived at the largest protest in history against the government, chanting, "We are fed up." Got to tell you, as somebody who's like hung out in Germany, who's lived in Germany for multiple years, this is not the nature of these people. like the nature of the German is to go along to get along, leave well enough alone, be happy in their beautiful country, and to not really stir the pot too much. But now they've done it. Truckers have joined the German farmer protest. They are standing together. So now the German truckers are out here. We are here for the people, is what these signs read. I got to brush up on my German. That sign read like we are the ones who make the country work, not the politicians. Look at this, the Brandenburg Gate. This is a shocking scene. Look at that. Shocking scene. Beautiful. You love to see it. This is, of course, the most famous street in all of Germany, right? The Brandenburg Gate, through this massive park in the center of Berlin. And this is an iconic location, arguably the most iconic German location in the country, is right here. And now it is completely and totally gridlocked via the farmers. Good for them. Goosebumps. I just witnessed countless German farmers on their tractors making their way to a highway backed up by a huge convoy of truckers. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in a while. This is how you show your government who's boss. That's exactly right. God bless them. And it's working, man. It's working. Look at this. Look at some of this drone footage here, where German railway employees are now on a 3-day strike. So they're bringing the entire country to a standstill. German farmers are not resting around. This is Augsburg, Germany. Beautiful place, by the way. Today marks the third consecutive day of blockades and convoys and protests, crippling tax hikes and diesel. In a related development, German railway employees' 3-day strike demanding higher wages and paralyzing rail traffic. Seems that everyone is fed up with the government. Yep. It's pretty easy, man. Populism's pretty easy. Populism says, I'm going to care for my native people, and I'm going to simply... I'm not going to import more populations. I'm going to simply care for the people who were born here and try and make their lives worth living. Food, safety, shelter, low taxes, a currency that functions, a banking system that functions, and the ability to raise your family in peace and worship in peace. That's kind of just all people want. The American founders got it right. That's kind of like just simply all we want. You know, the rights to free speech and the right to bear arms. Toss that in there. You got yourself a country, baby. Look at some of the headlines from around the world. Nationwide German farmer blockades heap pressure on Prime Minister Scholz here, saying effectively like these guys aren't going away, and they're destroying. They're now destroying the politicians that are trying to destroy them. Wow. Of course, many of the angles are like, wow, these are right-wing extremists. These are right-wing Of course, that's the way that they go. Reuters is corporate propaganda. German rail strikes and farmers' protests cause disruptions in Europe's biggest economy. The vast majority of the German, there's a huge, obvious, look at this, far-right concerns. You can always tell globalist press. Look at how they have to insert far-right concerns. They never say far-left concerns. They never say, well, it's the far left that got us here. They're the problem. The far left are the problem, the psychopaths that are raising the taxes, making life unlivable for the actual native populations of these countries, destroying these great countries, and importing millions of migrants. They never say that. It's always far-right concerns. This is how you know this is Davos-funded, World Economic Forum funded globalist propaganda. Do not believe these people. Follow our channel instead. German farmers and train drivers are scaring Germany's bosses. God bless them. The country's industrial relations are being tested like never before. Good for them. You should be scared. Leaders across the world should be scared. You are messing with people's lives. And now it's time. Like, now it's time. You saw this in Canada, obviously, with the trucker convoy. I'm getting like goosebumps thinking about it. The most effective government protest I've ever seen in my life, the trucker convoy in Canada. And what they treat those people like terrorists. What they do during when people wanted to protest a clearly rigged election in America, they treat those people like terrorists. This is what happens when this dynamic is going on. We're like right here. Remember, we're right here. Like, people are standing up, and we just need to get a few more people to stand up, and we'll be here. It'll be amazing. Compact Magazine, Germany's war on food and farmers. I highly encourage you read this. This dropped today, and it really educated me on what's actually happening here. The unrest comes as a backdrop of growing food insecurity and industrial capacity in Germany across Europe, as well as fears of a far-right electoral triumph looming around the corner. Yeah, that's right. Amazing how they always list it as far-right. Ladies and gentlemen, populist is the word. Far-right is used as a slur. Populist is the word. And I can define populist for you clearly and simply. Were you born on this soil? Then I care about you. And I want you to live a good life, a secure life. I want you to be able to raise your family in peace, and I want you to be able to worship in peace and go about your life, generally not really even thinking about the government, because the government isn't interfering in your life, and simply providing the guardrails for security for you to eat, sleep, and go to work and live happily. That is the goal. That is the system of government. The government is there to serve the people, not the other way around. And that's how people get it twisted. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're here. We're in between these two steps. We're right here. All we need to do is continue to let people see that the guys with the whips that are screaming at us, they're the frauds. And they're here to make our lives worse. And we all collectively can make our lives better by standing up for them. In a very clairvoyant interview on British television, there was a pundit who really distilled exactly what's happening right now to Europe's farmers. And I think it's a perfect way to end. Watch.
Why, as the Dutch government, a guy called Rutte, the Prime Minister, completely owned by the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab, why has he just announced that the Netherlands, the second biggest exporter of food in the world, is targeting farmers to destroy them and get them off the land, which is where all these farming protests in the Netherlands have come from? At a time of food shortages and supply chain problems, you are targeting the second biggest exporter of food in the bloody world to destroy its farming base? Why are you doing that? If people depend on you for what's left of the food, you control them. Where food is abundant and cheap, you do not control them. Where energy is cheap and abundant, you do not control them. Scarcity equals dependency equals control. And that's why they're targeting the food chain, they're targeting the energy supply, they're targeting everything.